Welcome back, everybody, to Laying the Points with FarleyBets. We're back for the second time in less than a week. I got a few things on my mind. And it's great to be back here with all of you for another podcast. This is episode 7. We're churning them out. We're hustling. Got the picks up at the odds breakers. A lot going on, as always, as we get into these summer months with the NBA season winding down. But still plenty to talk about, and that's what I will spend the majority of this podcast talking about, is the NBA Eastern Conference and Western Conference games. But before I do all that, as always, you can follow me at FarleyBets, whether that's on Instagram or Twitter. Follow me there to get links to all my free picks, of course, every day at theoddsbreakers.com. You can also sign up, or you can DM me to get my premium picks, which, again, I hear are one of the hottest values on the market. Don't charge much, and I have a high win rate. As you all know, I've talked about it enough. This is a tough game, this gambling thing, this betting on sports deal. But we put in our research here, and we try to give you guys the best, sharp insight about all sports at the Odds Breakers. Not only should you follow me at FarleyBets on Instagram and Twitter, but on Twitter you should follow at Gator Betting. That's Patrick. He's been doing a lot of great writing for us on golf. And what else is he doing? Horse racing and NHL. Does NHL picks, I think, almost every day now for the Stanley Cup. I mean, I guess it's not every day now because it is the Stanley Cup. But he's been doing a fantastic job. Also at Nick Hub Sports. Nick and his fantastic baseball picks. And then, of course, at OB Kiev. That's OBKIEV. The man himself, the odds breaker himself. You should follow him, and you should follow all of us at the Odds Breakers on Twitter, where you will get links and information and everything you need to know about the things that we post at theoddsbreakers.com. Pleasure to join all of you here today, and let's get this baby rolling. Going to try to keep it again to about a half an hour, but we're here. We've got a lot to say, so let's get to it. All right, the first thing that I wanted to address, nobody told me that I had to address this. But I just feel like it, is on my last podcast on episode 6. I think I said something a little off-putting. I said Devin Booker can be kind of a bitch at the end of games, and I just wanted to address that. First of all, I shouldn't have said that. Okay, this isn't Barstool Sports, right? This isn't. We're not looking for hot clicks like some of the other sites. Maybe the ESPNs out there, making bold statements like Stephen A. Smith, even though they make no sense or don't really hold any credence. I shouldn't have said that. That's a little too biting. Here at the Odds Breakers, we're trying to bring you guys sharp insight, sharp information. We're trying to help you win, trying to help you understand sports betting and the ways to get the right angles and find the right opportunities. And I'm passionate, and sometimes my passion comes off. I think, this is something that I've had to work on in life quite a few times, actually, and it's something, we all have our things. But sometimes when I'm passionate, I just say overly bold things. You know what I mean? And Devin Booker, he's absolutely not a bitch. In fact, Devin, if you're listening, and I know you're not because you have more important things to do, you should have seen me at 24. I was pretty soft. Yes, I just got out of the military. But I thought I was hot shit. I was walking around in my leather jacket. I was going to bars in D.C. I was, thinking I was this real tough guy getting out of the military. I wasn't. I still had so much to learn. And obviously the greater point, I think I made some salient points about Devin Booker on the last podcast, and I'm only going to reemphasize them here. I mean, look at game, what the hell was that? Game 5. Between the Clippers and the Suns last night. Devin Booker had a good game, right? Over 30 points. He contributed a lot. I guess it just annoys me. It's kind of like politics. It feels like ESPN and sports writers and fans across the NBA, whatever, they've chosen Devin Booker to like as soon as Devin Booker does something good in a game, you see all the tweets go out, you see all the Instagram posts go out. Everybody's just, everyone's, kind of just kissing his ass a little bit. Like, oh my God, look at that play. Devin Booker, he's the man. What a legend. He's the next Kobe. It's just it's a little much. We're crowning these players way before they've earned that crown, way before they've earned that designation. Now Devin Booker, again, he played well last night, but if you really watched that game, there were points in the third quarter, for example, at the end of the third quarter, where the Suns started to gain some momentum. There was a double-digit deficit multiple times in the third quarter, but the Suns kept on chipping away, and then they were down by only 5 or 4, something like that, at the end of the third quarter, towards the end. And on 2, maybe 3 straight possessions, definitely 2, as far as I remember it, Devin Booker totally blew the whole possession. He tore down the court. The crowd was behind him, right? The energy was in the air. And he threw up a shot that didn't even hit the rim, hit the backboard really hard and bounced off. And then on the next possession, he went down the court. He got double teamed. He threw the ball away. Listen, players make mistakes. Okay, like no one's perfect. Kobe wasn't perfect. Michael Jordan wasn't perfect. LeBron's not perfect. But there's a lot of like those tense moments, those high pressure moments, where at times, just like a Khris Middleton, Devin Booker steps up. He's really good. But other times, it's like 50-50. Sometimes he's really out of control. And again, the point that I keep on making is Devin Booker does not have to be that special for the Suns to win. Now, when he has a 30, 40-point game and a high field goal percentage, the Suns are probably going to win, right? Because that's just that's just overwhelming. The Suns operate at such a high level as a team with Chris Paul facilitating. DeAndre Ayton is really coming into his own. I expect him to be an all-star next year if he keeps this up. And, I expect him to be a center in the NBA for a very long time. He's a good kid. He's a humble kid. And watch his effort on every single play. Plus, he can shoot the ball. He can post up and turn around and fade away. He's great. But Mikal Bridges, they just have so many playmakers out there, and they play so well as a team, and everybody understands their role. Devin Booker doesn't have to do that much. So, again, my words were too strong. We don't want to be seen here at the Oddsbreakers like, fucking Barstool Sports. Okay, I don't want you guys to perceive us that way. This is serious stuff. This is serious insight about sports betting and the sports that we love and that we bet on. Okay, and we're trying to help you. That being said, the passion that I had and the points that I was making, I think are still salient. Devin Booker is just getting way too overhyped. Yesterday, God, I go on social media, and they're immediately relating the Kobe said to Devin, here's how to be a legend. Be a legend. And I'm sure that was a great exchange between him and Kobe, back in the day. Booker seems like a good kid. And back then, especially when he first got into the NBA, he was probably so sweet, right? And so humble before Kobe. Of course, Kobe loved that. And Kobe couldn't wait to bestow his wisdom upon other people, all right? But at 24 years old and, 5 years in the league or however long Devin Booker's been in there, it's been, more than you might think. He's not even close to that status yet, okay? Not even close. And again, I almost hate to mention LeBron on these podcasts because I know how many people hate LeBron, but there is a presence, despite the fact that he's a monster. His size alone is whew. But there is a presence about LeBron, a leadership presence, a stoicism, a locked in during pressure stoicism that he has in those big game moments. And he's done that time and time and time and time and time again. And he's shouldered his entire team. Put the team on his shoulders is what I'm saying. Put his team on his back. Time and time and time and time again. That's what you have to do to be in the same conversation as one of the greats. Okay? As even to be mentioned. But what do we see now? We're seeing this clickbait, constant mentioning, constant talking about the next legend, the next big star. And that's what I say, excuse my French, I'm just sitting here and I'm like, get the fuck out of here. It's like the New York comes out in me a little bit. It doesn't happen too often except for when I talk about, I guess I don't say coffee like my mom says it, but when I say like I want to have a daughter someday, it sounds a little Jersey there, right? Anyway, it just annoys me, folks. And, I could be probably overly passionate about this shit, but we watch the same sport. Okay, we all pay attention to the same sport. And it's just, this is another point, okay, so we'll segue into this next point, is in this world of sports betting, and I've talked about it before, you really have to be careful who you pick and choose to listen to. Okay? I'm not going to blast anybody else out there. I'm not going to even talk about the names of the sports bettors that are like mentors to me that I followed. I mean, they're like celebrities to me. If you've heard my previous podcast, I probably mentioned them. But you just really have to be careful about what you're reading and what you're listening to, because I've already said it. A site like Barstool, I like Barstool. Who doesn't like Barstool? Right? They're so entertaining. Love the pods. I love all the little things you see on Instagram and stuff. These guys who love sports, they're going crazy. They're putting down bets. I mean, Portnoy himself, right? I mean, talk about, somebody who's not soft. I mean, he's not afraid to do anything. He's always putting down bets, right? He's always taking chances. Love it. Very entertaining. But you have to separate entertainment from those sports bettors out there, and from those professional sports bettors out there who put a lot of time, a lot of effort, and take this gig seriously. This is a job. This is something we analyze, we research, we look for opportunities, we look for trends every single day. It does not stop. I mean, maybe there's that one rare day in the summer or something where there's like no sports on. But really, there's almost no off season. And it's why, as a pro sports bettor, you probably want to find a niche, right? Like you want to say, hey, I'm really good at this sport. I'm really good at betting this sport. I want to get really deep in the weeds about this sport. I mean, some of these guys that I look up to in the industry, they're just complete savants when it comes to their sport. They'll be like, oh yeah, remember that fifth-year senior who played for Baylor back in 2014 and had 9.4 assists per game? And I'm like, no, I don't. That's insane that you know that. That's crazy. How do you know that? Anything about that? The historical knowledge from a niche sports bettor separates them from the rest. And I think what we're gonna start to see as sports betting becomes more legalized, more frequently talked about, more in our lexicon, less taboo. You're going to start to see a separation between those who can actually really teach you about sports betting, teach you how to win, teach you how to become sharp, because that's what this is all about. And then there's going to be all those clickbaity, entertaining sites out there that we all love to see. We all love to pay attention to and watch and listen to. Me too. It's great entertainment. But that's different than solid, expert betting advice. Okay, let's talk about the game 4 tonight between the Bucks and the Hawks. Bucks returning to, State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Hotlanta, to take on the Hawks in game 4. Bucks lead 2-1. Close game in game 3, but as you probably already know, the Bucks pulled away at the end. Khris Middleton had a huge fourth quarter. I think he had 20 points in the fourth quarter. And Trae Young, I hate to see stuff like this. I mean, it feels like it's nonstop, doesn't it? But Trae Young gets a injury to his foot stepping on the referee. Get out of the way, ref. God almighty. And now Trae Young could be limited tonight. So I guess that's my first point about this game. Now, the Hawks are a 7-point underdog. As I sit here, the total's at 219. If Trae Young, and I said this in my article today at the Odds Breakers, which you can check out, if Trae Young is limited at all, which I think he may be, I mean, a bone bruise sounds like it's going to limit your agility, your quickness. I don't know if it's going to limit his ability to shoot, but might limit his ability to get open. If Trae Young is limited at all, I think this series is over. I mean, Trae Young at full capacity, and he was doing a lot for the Hawks. He does in every single game. Trae Young limited means a real hole in their ability to produce offense for the Hawks. And the Hawks have a good team. They have a really solid team. But they do depend on Trae for at least in the 20s every game. And in 12 out of 15 games this postseason, he's led the Hawks in assists. Averaged 9.4 in the year. So he's their lead facilitator and their lead scorer. You talk about a load on offense. He's almost solely responsible for nearly 40 points a game for the Hawks between the assists and the points. So if Trae is truly limited, and I think he may be, a questionable designation tells me that, the doctors are telling us that this is a little more serious than one may think, or maybe it's not serious, but he probably, it's like a 60-40 kind of thing, and maybe in the regular season, let's put it that way. Trae Young's not playing, right? He's probably not playing for 3, 4, 5 games. This is the playoffs. He can get injections. I'm sure he'll be okay, but is he going to thrive? Is he going to be the same Trae? I don't know, and that's something to look for, obviously, in this game. If you see Trae Young from the first quarter, and he's just looking different, not as confident, not as quick, especially if the Hawks go up early because they're at home. I do like the Hawks in the first quarter +2. That's in my article today. But if Trae Young looks different, look to live bet the Bucks if that line goes down, right? If it goes down to like -4, -3, a lot of it was because of Khris Middleton, and I'll get to him in a second in that fourth quarter, but of Game 3. But the Bucks have another gear, I think, if they want to, if they're motivated enough, if it's, especially if they get a few shots in. Especially if Khris Middleton is shooting the way that he did in the fourth quarter. My goodness, no chance. When you have Giannis and Khris Middleton performing at that high of a level, the Bucks are clearly one of the best teams in the NBA. The problem is that doesn't happen very often. So if the Bucks are down early, or it's like a close game, and they're getting devalued in those live lines, I would pull a live bet on the Bucks. Now about Khris Middleton, if you read my article already today, then you saw that I compared him to a bag of Doritos. And it's no disrespect. I'm not trying to put my metaphorical foot in my mouth again, but I think it's true, right? First of all, Doritos are a national treasure. Okay, probably one of the best food inventions ever. Come on, like snack inventions, just unreal. But anyway, when you hit that, you get that bag of Doritos and you hit one, and it just, oh my God, it's just caked in flavoring. Cool Ranch, nacho cheese. I like the purple bag. What is it called? It's like spicy whatever. But you get one of those chips and they just blow your mind. It's like so tasty. It's so good. All in one big fat chip. Perfect triangle. That's what Khris Middleton does every now and then. He blows your mind. He doesn't miss a damn shot, it feels like, right? He's this precision jump shooter who finds ways to get open. He's usually always underestimated. And then other times, he's nowhere. He's a ghost. He's 5 for 19 from the field, 4 for 22 from the field, 0 for 4 from the 3-point line. Giannis has to take on the entire offense himself virtually. If teams could figure out how to limit Giannis, which obviously easier said than done. But sometimes I wonder if teams should just double team Khris Middleton and Giannis the entire game. Forget the other contributors. You might have a much better chance at winning. But when they're both having their way on offense, forget about it. Anyway, back to the bag of Doritos, which is predictably making me hungry sitting here. Most of the time, Khris Middleton is an average Dorito. He tastes good, right? Does the job. Not going to blow you away. Doesn't suck. Other times, he's one of those bland, flavorless Doritos. And like in Game 3, in quarter 4, he blew us away. He was awesome. And I give him a lot of credit for that. But let's calm down a little bit. If you look at the lines in the point props for Khris Middleton, the under 23.5 is actually juiced for tonight. Of course, they're anticipating Atlanta to pay a little bit more. I don't know why. Of course, Atlanta's already paying attention to Khris Middleton, but maybe they're going to scheme something different to try and limit him. But don't expect him to have another, crazy superstar-like performance in Game 4. He could, sometimes he has back-to-back games. But the issue with Milwaukee has always been, while Giannis is the clear superstar of that team, although he still needs to improve those free throws, Khris Middleton is not necessarily the clear number 2 guy that Giannis needs. And Giannis, again, right, the, what do you call it, the clickbaits, right? So Giannis, of course, we see him quoting now, I trust Khris Middleton with my life. I would give him the ball 100% of the time, blah, 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 blah. That might be true after Game 3, Giannis, but that's not always true. Because in the past, in the playoffs, when he needed his team to support him, especially Khris, it didn't always happen. In fact, he dropped the ball and he dropped it hard many times over. So we'll see what happens here in Game 4. There's a lot of narratives up in the air. I mean, truly, I don't know if the Hawks are capable of winning another game if Trae Young is really limited. I just think he's such an integral piece. But I will lean the Bucks -7 because I do expect Trae to be a little limited. And even if he's not, the Bucks are capable of winning by that margin. The Hawks really don't have an answer for the Bucks offense once they get going. And unless they change something on defense and unless Trae has a big game, as much as I really like the Hawks and I really love Trae, but I don't like the prognosis here. Let's talk about Game 6 between the Suns and the Clippers. The series returns to LA after Paul George has an unbelievable game, over 40 points. In Game 5, now it's Game 6, down to the Staples Center once again. Oh my God, here come the Clippers. Are they going to do it again? We always count them out, and here they come. I counted them out last night. I thought the Suns were going to win. Suns at home, how hyped up they are. Chris Paul's back. He's been back. Devin Booker was due for a bigger game. He had it, but the Bucks punched the Suns in the mouth from the opening quarter, which admittedly was a premium pick of mine to take the Suns in the first quarter. Did not happen. Blew up my night. And the Clippers really managed and stayed in front for the majority of that game. Suns would come back, itch back, and the Clippers would just take it right back. I mean, when you are shooting over 54%, which the Clippers were, and this is the same old story with the Clippers, they are really, really perimeter shooting dependent. But when it works, incredibly tough to stop. Incredibly tough. I mean, when Patrick Beverley is playing the kind of defense he's capable of, and then he goes down the court and nails a three. And I mean, Paul George for a stretch there in the third quarter, I mean, it was like he didn't miss a shot. I mean, he was just 3-pointers, jump shots, driving to the rim, free throws. He just couldn't make a mistake. And a lot's been said about playoff Paul and his failures in the playoffs. Well, he's done a lot for the Clippers in this series. We can't say if the Clippers end up losing this series, we can't say it's because of Paul George. Even if he has a stinker in Game 6, which I don't think he will at home, it certainly hasn't been because of Paul George. But I just not that the energy wasn't there. I mean, the Suns are always they're a blue collar team. They put their bodies on the line in every game. But I was shocked to see just their inability to come back in that game. But again, when the Clippers are shooting like that, it's a lot of teams aren't going to be able to come back. I mean, imagine if Kawhi was on the floor contributing to defense and locking in those perimeter shots with the rest of his team. I mean, are the Clippers arguably at times are they better without Kawhi because they have a little more rhythm? Kawhi is a very methodical, slower paced player. Likes to pick you apart like a scientist. He's surgical, but the Clippers were pushing the pace a lot in that game because when they had the advantage and when they had the momentum, they took advantage of it. And it was 1 3 after another, one jump shot after another. Anyway, Game 6 goes to LA and the Clippers are a 1-point dog. I'm seeing the total at around 215. First impressions are I think that this line will move in favor of the Clippers. In other words, Maybe not in the favor of the Clippers if you want to bet on them, but I do think that at +1 they're juiced up a little bit right now, and I could see this becoming a pick 'em, or maybe even the Clippers becoming a 1 point favorite. A lot of these games, I mean, these are very close games, so you might as well just pick a money line if it sticks to around this price. I mean, we got 105, minus 105 on the Clippers, minus 115 on the Suns. I want to lean the Suns because I do think that they're the better overall team on a consistent basis. I do not think that it's sustainable how the Clippers rely on their perimeter shooting, because they're going to have an off game. And when they have an off game, a team like the Suns is going to take advantage of that. But the question is, just like we saw in Game 3, when the series went to LA, the Clippers put on a show in that game. Could they do that again in Game 6? A methodical team like the Clippers, when they have the momentum and the adrenaline and the energy of the crowd behind them, that's a dangerous combination. Now, lastly, let's talk some series prices here. The Hawks are at plus 1,100 to win their series against the Bucks. Whew. Sharp turnaround from that 1-0 start. And the Clippers are still plus 300 to win their series. I do think there's value on both of those bets. I wouldn't make a huge play on the Hawks, maybe a 0.5 unit bet, maybe 0.25. On the Clippers, maybe a one unit bet. Here's the thing: if the Hawks win tonight at home, we've seen it before. Trae is arguably even better on the road. He's averaging more points on the road in the postseason. He loves to be in that position. If he looks okay tonight, like this injury isn't bothering him too much, and the Hawks tie up the series 2-2, I'm not that intimidated about the series going to Fiserv Forum again in Milwaukee. I'm not. And if the Hawks were able to steal that game, then it goes back to Atlanta for Game 6. So, is it likely? No. You heard my rant at the beginning of the podcast, but I do think there's I guess there's a lot that we don't know, but I would still give that about a 20%, 20 to 30% chance. And at that price, worth a little sprinkle, a little sprinkle winkle. So I'm thinking I'm going to do that myself, and I'm certainly not advising you to put a lot of coin on that bet, but consider a little sprinkle on the Hawks to still win the series. And the Clippers, same thing. This series is going back to LA. Okay? We saw what happened in Game 3. Paul George is in a flow state. And in the last 3 games, the Clippers' defense has been sensational. And now they're back at home with their home crowd behind them. I think the Clippers should be favored in Game 6. So at plus 300, this is the series price. If the Clippers win Game 6, at plus 300, Game 7 is going to be a pick'em. So you're essentially getting a pick'em game for Game 7 at plus 300. Again, assuming that they win Game 6. But they should be favored for Game 6. They're at home. They've been playing really well. And their defense has really, really been playing well. So I think that's worth a shot. I'm going to put 1 unit on that. And again, this is where the heart separates from the mind, right? I don't want the Clippers to win. I love the Suns. I love Chris Paul. I love what the Suns are doing. But that's a good value. And I wouldn't blame any of you if you even put a little more than 1 unit on that, because you're getting essentially, especially if you expect them to win Game 6, you're getting a huge discount, a great price at the Clippers winning in Game 7. Alrighty, I'm going to wrap up this podcast. We're right about at that 30-minute mark. On the next podcast, which I am planning on doing next week, in addition to the NBA playoffs, I'm going to talk a little bit of National Football League futures. We talk about my favorite plays for futures on division winners, maybe some other things too, maybe some look-ahead lines for Week 1. It's not a bad idea to put down some bets now for Week 1 lines that appear to be way off. Those usually always change pretty drastically from now until the actual Week 1 games kick off. So a lot of opportunity lying ahead there, and I just can't wait to talk about football. I love football more than any other sport. Probably, but pretty good margin, admittedly. So excited to talk to you guys all about football in the next pod. Again, you can follow me anytime, anywhere, any place, baby, at FarleyBets on Instagram, on Twitter. Follow OB Kiev, follow Gator Betting, follow Nick Hub Sports, and follow us at The Odds Breakers. You can check out my daily articles at The Odds Breakers. You can also access this podcast at The Odds Breakers, as well as everywhere where podcasts are found. Until next time, good luck on all your bets. And I'm going to quote my favorite wrestler of all time and trust that you're all going to be answering me on the other end. If you want to win some bets this week and you want to win a little scratch, give me a hell yeah! And you should probably check out The Odds Breakers to make sure that happens. All right, see ya!